He never expected his day to spiral from a routine maintenance shift into the strangest, most terrifying, and somehow exhilarating event of his life. Kai had been sent to the upper decks of the alien station to check the energy conduits. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere else at Curiosity. That old human floor led him to a door marked private quarters, off limits. A faint humming leaked through the edges, and before he could stop himself, he pushed it open. What greeted him made his heart skip a beat. A tall figure, clearly female, was adjusting something near a console. Her armor had been discarded, revealing skin pale and flawless, and before he could even apologize, she turned. The blaster in her hand was already aimed at him, the metallic gleam catching the harsh overhead lights. Kai froze. He was human, out of place on this station filled with towering aliens whose senses and reflexes far surpassed his own. One wrong move, and he could be toast. I'm sorry, he stammered, his voice oddly weak even to himself. The alien's eyes, a deep amber with flecks of gold, narrowed. She didn't lower the blaster. Her expression was a mix of anger and bewilderment, as if he had violated some cosmic rule he hadn't even known existed. You see too much, she said in broken common. Kai swallowed hard. I didn't mean to. He stopped. Words were useless. Instead of firing, she did something completely unexpected. She lowered the blaster slightly and studied him, as if weighing his worth, or perhaps deciding if his life was worth keeping. The moment stretched painfully, every second etched into his mind like a hammer striking steel. Then the door behind him banged open, and several more aliens filed in. They were her family, or perhaps her clan. Their eyes locked on him, and he suddenly understood. He was in their domain, and by accident he had transgressed a serious rule. The leader, an older female with markings along her face that denoted rank, approached. Her presence was commanding, and she spoke in a tone that made the station's hum feel like a lullaby. You have seen her fully, she said, and Kai's stomach sank. It was a ritualistic tone, and in our tradition, such a sight binds one to responsibility. Kai's mind raced. Responsibility? What kind of responsibility? He was human, fragile, small, and completely unprepared for alien customs. She points her blaster at you, not in threat, but in invitation. The elder continued. You have no choice now. You are to marry her, as per our laws. A shotgun wedding is the only honorable way to resolve this. Kai blinked. Marry her? I don't even know her. She knows you, the younger female said with a slight smirk. And you've seen her, so the bond is set. It is not a question of love. It is a matter of honor. Honor, a concept he vaguely understood but had never been subjected to in such a literal sense. The elder turned away, signaling the others. The clan began preparations immediately, calling for ceremonial garb and notifying their wider community. Kai's protests fell on deaf ears. Kai spent the next hour in a haze of confusion. They dressed him in a tunic of woven metals that shimmered faintly with energy. His human muscles ached under the alien fabrics. Meanwhile, Shihi's bride by law watched silently, occasionally adjusting her own ceremonial attire. The blaster remained at her side, a constant reminder of the precariousness of his position. Through it all, Kai noticed subtle hints of curiosity in her gaze. She didn't glare anymore, she observed, almost as if evaluating whether he could survive the customs and expectations of her people. By the time they reached the ceremonial hall, a massive chamber carved from crystalline rock and illuminated by ambient energy, the crowd was assembled. Their eyes gleamed with anticipation, some curious, some judgmental. Kai's human heart pounded. He had read about alien customs, but never imagined participating in one so personal, so immediate. The elder began the ritual. Words flowed in the alien tongue, melodic yet sharp, resonating through the hall. The female beside him raised her blaster, not in threat, but as part of the ceremony. Kai mirrored her, holding out his hands as instructed. The blaster wasn't a weapon here. It was a symbol of commitment. He glanced at her. For the first time, she smiled, not fully, but the corners of her eyes softened. She didn't lower her guard entirely, but there was a silent acknowledgement that this was not mere punishment. Somehow, he had become part of something bigger than himself. When the ritual ended, the hall erupted in murmurs of approval. The clan considered the bond sealed, the shotgun wedding complete. Kai felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief that he hadn't been vaporized, dread that his life was now entwined with someone he barely knew and barely understood. After the ceremony, she finally spoke, her voice calmer than before. You survived. That alone earns my respect. Kai tried to respond, but words felt insufficient. Instead, he nodded, and for once, she didn't raise the blaster. Over the next few hours, Kai began to understand the complexities of her culture. The blaster, while a symbol of authority and potential harm, was also a sign of trust. By keeping it at her side, she demonstrated that while he was now bound to her, she did not intend to harm him without reason. Meals were shared. Stories were exchanged through broken common and gestures. Kai realized that what had started as a terrifying accident was transforming into something strangely human in its familiarity, connection. Despite the alien forms, despite the rituals he could barely comprehend, there was a shared sense of survival, of adapting, of finding common ground. Night fell on the station. Kai found himself in quarters that were once hers, now theirs. The blaster was laid across a console, within reach but dormant. She observed him from across the room, no words, just a shared understanding. For the first time, Kai felt a spark of something he hadn't anticipated. Hope. Maybe, despite the terrifying start, despite the impossible circumstances, he could navigate this world. Maybe, against all odds, a human could belong here. As sleep crept in, he realized the most astonishing thing. He didn't feel like a prisoner. He felt like a participant in a story far larger than himself. And somewhere deep in that realization, he found a strange comfort. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, customs to learn, traditions to navigate, perhaps even genuine connection. But for now, he closed his eyes, the blaster resting quietly nearby, and allowed himself a rare, human thought, that even in the strangest corners of the galaxy, humanity could find a way to survive, to adapt, and perhaps to thrive in some way. He hoped, maybe even to belong.